entering the wonderful worlds of AR and VR. You're Tony Stark, also known as Iron Man, and you're preparing to save Earth. When you put on your helmet, you see digital information about the world around you flash into view. This is augmented reality, AR, and it's not just available to movie characters. AR combines the real world with facts and figures from a computer program. These days, AR is available on our cell phone screens, and it's becoming a constant feature of daily life. Or perhaps you want to dive into an immersive video game. Instead of seeing a world on a screen, you're inside the game world. This is virtual reality, VR, a world that's created by a computer. VR allows you to see and hear things and move virtual objects. This makes video games more engaging, but it has other uses as well. People generally need a special headset to enter a VR world, but as time passes, it's becoming easier to afford one. We may find ourselves living in a virtual world sooner rather than later.
Hi everyone, welcome to English for You. I'm Pat.
I'm Shiglin.
And in this two-part article, we're going to explore the wonderful worlds of AR and VR.
Okay.
Now, if you're not sure exactly what these are and how they're different, stay tuned as we read through day one and learn just about what these two technologies are. So the article is kind of split into two paragraphs, this day one, and it's got two different sorts of situations. So situation one, you're Tony Stark, also known as Iron Man, and you're preparing to save Earth.
Okay, wow, 好厉害,
very excited, very cool. So this phrase, known as, sometimes you'll see it used as also known as. This phrase is simply used to give another name something is commonly called or known as by people. So all those Marvel superheroes, they've kind of got their hero name, and they're also maybe known to each other and their family as their real name, that kind of thing.
所以在这边 be known as something 就是被称作什么，可是我们如果把 as 改成 for be known for something 它就会变成以什么特色为名，所以比如说鼎泰丰 is known for its steamed buns， 所以呢我们文章讲的什么呢？你现在是 Tony Stark 也就是钢铁人的意思。So how do you save the earth?
Well, if you are Tony Stark, this is what might happen. The article says, when you put on your helmet, you see digital information about the world around you flash into view.
That's so cool.
And they actually do that in the movies. You get kind of like the Tony Stark view where it's like, this is what you can see, but then here's like extra computer information about what's going on. That's basically AR. Let's look at the word helmet. Helmet is either armor or just some kind of protection for your head. And it could be just like the top and the sides. It could be a complete cover with a faceplate. You think of helmets being worn by like soldiers in ancient times, by knights, by astronauts, by just people on motorbikes. You know, in certain sports, they'll wear helmets to protect them. All of that kind of thing. Here's an example sentence. The law says you have to wear a helmet when you ride your motorbike.
Okay, so helmet 就是头盔的意思，或者是我们骑摩托车啊，要戴那个安全帽，或者是骑那个 bike。脚踏车也要带。那这边 digital 就是数位的，所以数位相机英文是什么呢？就是 digital camera。所以比如说 Hey Pat, could I borrow your digital camera for a sec?
Sure, okay, but don't you have a phone?
Yeah, now we have a phone.
Poor digital cameras, they're kind of going.
I know.
Anyway, so this digital information, all these kind of numbers and pictures and stuff would flash into view. So let's take a look at how we're using this word flash as a verb. So if something flashes into view, it appears suddenly. That's what we think of with flashes. It's like, phew, it's there. Sometimes it could be with a bright light. Maybe there's a noise like shoom, some kind of fast noise like that. But if it appears suddenly, like you have no idea it's there, and then bam, it's there, we can say it flashes into view, something like that. Here's an example. The police car flashed into view around the corner and shot down the road.
Flash 在这边我们动词哦，它是我们文章中是代表闪现或掠过的意思。不过当名词有闪光灯的意思，或者是灯，所以像我们使用的手电筒，英文就是 flashlight。那我们也可以造一个句子 ：I'll have to use the flash. It's really dark in here. 对啊，如果你没有用闪光灯或没有灯的话，这边真的是太暗了。所以 AR 是什么东西呢？你戴上这个头盔，你戴上这个头戴式设备的时候，你可以看到你周围的世界的数位资讯快速的出现在你的视野当中哦。
The article says this is augmented reality. AR, and it's not just available to movie characters.
很酷很酷 ，augmented reality 就是扩增实境，因为这个 augment 就是有增大的意思，所以 AR 它不仅仅适用于电影的角色哦 ，it can do a lot of things.
Yeah, augmented, it's like made better, made special, kind of improved in some way. Okay, so we see AR combines the real world with facts and figures from a computer program. Now, we'll look at some examples of it later, but others could be education. There are schools where people would look at something, they'd use AR, and it would give them extra information. Like, wow, what's this, like, insect? Flash, oh, it's this. I'd love a program that you could just look at a tree and it would tell you what kind of tree it was.
Crazy. Yeah.
But yeah, it adds facts and figures or pictures and other digital information on top of an image in the real world you look at on a phone or other screen. So here, when we talk about figures, we mean numbers and statistics, those kind of facts about something. We often use it as plural, especially when we say facts and figures, because you'd always use that as a plural because you mean more than one.
Yeah.
Just a figure, it could be a number. Like, look at this figure. Is that the right figure at the end of the column when you're adding up the numbers? Is that figure correct? You just mean one. But facts and figures, you always talk about plural in that way. Here's an example. Looking at the sales figures, it seems we're doing better than usual this year. That's great.
Wow, 好，这边的 figure 是数字或数据，意思非常非常多。It's got so many meanings.
Yes.
可以是人影啦，一个人的轮廓，甚至是一个可能身材啊、外形都 OK。So 比如说 ，a tall figure was standing at the bus stop. 或者是呢 if you want to use figure as a verb, that's okay too. We can say to figure something out. 就是有 to find out 的感觉啦，就是想出、找出、理解一件事情。So 比如说 I can't figure out what you're trying to say. Just be direct 或 just be direct. 所以 AR 将现实世界跟电脑程式中的数据是结合起来的。
So it's not just in movies we get this kind of stuff. The article says these days AR is available on our cell phone screens and it's becoming a constant feature of daily life. As we'll see from the example in day 2, I probably use it almost every day. But we'll get to that. First, let's look at the word constant. It's an adjective here. If something is constant, it's regular. It's always there or very often there. It's the kind of thing you don't really go without. For example, people's cell phones are a constant presence in their hand or their pocket. You don't really find people walking around without a phone on them at some point these days.
所以 constant 就是经常发生或持续不断，所以如果常常被使用，我们就常常讲 constant use。所以比如说 the lock has broken through constant use， 因为使用太久了，这个锁有点坏了。所以现在 AR 它也可以在我们的手机上使用，而且其实已经快要渐渐成为日常生活中一个很常使用的工具了。
So that was our first situation, being Iron Man, to get an idea of AR. Here's a second situation. So if you're not Iron Man, the article says, or perhaps you want to dive into an immersive video game. So this phrasal verb dive into means to start doing something or to start really enjoying something and experiencing it without hesitating. You don't stop and go, should I play this game? Should I do this thing? Should I jump off a bridge with a bungee jump thing on? No, if you're diving into it, you just stop thinking and start doing.
那我们赶快来看一下 dive into something 这个片语吧。 dive into something 就是全心投入在什么东西之中。那有没有看到一个字？这边有个形容词 immersive， 它就是身临其境的，代表你好像在里面的感觉。它是来自于哪一个动词呢 ？immerse 这一个字，所以我们通常都会讲 to immerse someone or oneself in something， 它就是会有沉浸于或者是埋头于做什么事情的感觉。所以比如说，找一个人总是埋头在工作里面，我就可以讲 I always immerse myself in work。That's
right. An immersive video game is one that you could just enjoy for hours. You kind of stop paying attention to the real world and live in the game world. But with VR games, that's what really happens. The article says, instead of seeing a world on a screen, you're inside the game world. Now, this phrase instead of just gives an alternative to say that one thing is present or being chosen, not another thing. Whichever item directly follows instead of is the thing not being chosen or that isn't present. So instead of coffee, I'll have tea. Instead of being Iron Man, I will be playing this VR game.
所以 instead of something or instead of doing something 就是与其或而不是，就是代替什么。所以与其看着荧幕上的世界，你就好像整个人置身于在游戏世界里的感觉哦。
So as we've kind of hinted at, this is virtual reality, VR, a world that's created by a computer.Virtual
reality 就是虚拟实境，因为 virtual 这个字本身就是虚拟的意思，所以虚拟实境就是以电脑产生出来的世界。
So we learn that VR allows you to see and hear things and move virtual objects.
对，虚拟实境可以干嘛呢？可以让你看见或听见一些东西，然后去移动虚拟的物体。We usually have virtual reality platforms in like a department store.
Yeah,
have you done
kind
that?
of just go on them and sort of walk around a bit. Yeah,
超酷的。
So, and that's in fact, Chicolin bringing up that example is what this next sentence is about. This, so being in the video world, makes video games more engaging, but it, VR, has other uses as well, as she just mentioned. So, yeah, it makes the video game engaging. If something is engaging, it's charming, we could say it's attractive, enjoyable, interesting, but most importantly, it's easier to really lose yourself in and concentrate on. If it's an engaging book, you're going to keep turning the pages to find out what happens next. If it's an engaging conversation, then you'll just be chatting for ages. You'll never want to kind of, oh, okay, gotta go, bye. No, you'll want to keep talking. Here's another example. Modern video games are designed to be so engaging that people keep playing them for hours.
Engaging 就是有非常使人可以全神贯注的意思，有吸引人的感觉。它是形容词，动词是 engage， 所以我们常常讲 to engage in something 代表参与的意思。比如说 I have no time to engage in a debate， 就是我真的没有时间再跟你们吵了。好，那这边有一个 as well， 这个指的就是也就是 to too 的感觉差不多，通常放在句尾。所以这个虚拟实境呢，也可以让电玩游戏让它更有吸引力，不过它有其他用途哦。
So, if you want to play a VR game, though, you can't just kind of start plugging and playing like most games. The article says people generally need a special headset to enter a VR world. But as time passes, it's becoming easier to afford one. I think maybe you guys have heard of Oculus. That was one of the big kind of VR game headsets. There's a few others out there, but right now they're not that cheap, but they're getting cheaper.Yeah，
就是代表说这个 headset 头戴式设备呢，快要越来越普及了。when it's become more common, it's easier to afford.
Yeah. So it's not just, it's like headphones, eye stuff, or will all kind of support everything else, the whole set on your head. Now that sentence included today's language in focus. So let's take a moment to look at our sentence pattern. 我
们今天的 language and focus 要看的是 as 这个字。 它有不同用法哦。那它当从属连接词的时候呢，我们就会根据它前后文的关系有不同的意思，可以当如同或者是正如怎么样。我们通常用在引述一件我们已经知道或者已经是被描述过的事情哦。比如说 She lost the file just as I said she would 啊，你看我就说了吧，她肯定那个档案会不见，我已经讲过了。好，或者是呢，它有随着的意思，它跟 when 或者是 while 的意义很相近。比如说 things will improve as time goes on 代表说呢，时间随着时间过了，事情会越来越好的。那么它也可以当由于跟因为的意思，跟 since 或者是 because 的意义非常的像。比如说 I'm so excited to go abroad as I haven't been able to do so for many years 我好开心可以出国，因为这边就是 because I haven't been able to do so for so many years 就是我好久没有出国了。那么除此之外呢，也可以表示和什么东西一样。比如说 Steve as usual was the last to arrive 所以 Steve 本来就是最后一个到的，他今天又一样了。所以作为介系词的时候呢，也可以代表身为或者是作为什么身份的意思。比如说 I think of him as someone who will always help me 那作为副词呢，也可以代表呢和什么东西一样的意思哦。比如说This isn't where I intended to take you But never mind, it's just as good.
So before that, we said as time passes, these VR headsets are becoming easier to afford. If you can afford something, then you have enough money to pay for that thing. It still could be expensive, but you have enough, you're willing to pay it, so you're going to buy it. For example, oh, that nice jacket is too expensive. I can't afford it right now.
所以 afford 它当动词啊，它就是负担得起的意思，所以 can afford 就是有时间或者是可以做。但是如果就像刚刚老师讲的，价位太高了，那我们也可以讲 the price is way above what they can afford。所以呢，要 VR 要进入这个 VR 世界，我们要需要一个很特殊的头戴式设备，我们才可以看到。不过随着时间的推移，这一些设备越来越可以负担得起了。
So yeah, it's becoming more common, this technology. So we finish up this first part of the article by saying we may find ourselves living in a virtual world sooner rather than later. It's that whole kind of metaverse thing coming. This phrase sooner rather than later just means before long. We use it to show that something we might think is a long way in the future might happen before we expect it to.
所以这个片语呢 sooner rather than later 就是迟早的意思，就是代表说我们很快就会发现自己生活在虚拟世界中了。
So that's the end of the first part of the article, which explains what AR and VR are. We'll look at some specific examples of these technologies tomorrow, but now it's time to go to our For You chat question, which is, which sounds more interesting to you, AR or VR? And give reasons for your answer.
I think it's definitely the latter for me because
VR?
because I've been in a VR game before.
Have you?
Yeah,
wow.
yeah, and it was full of zombies and they looked so real. I was so scared, I kept taking off my headset because I didn't want to see them. They were so real.
Yeah, I think VR sounds more interesting because AR is now becoming like, okay, this is pretty normal stuff. It's kind of cool when you see it, but VR would still be like so you could go really it would affect your emotions and feelings more. So I'm more interested in playing a VR game, experiencing virtual reality.
Really, really cool.
Just because I think it would have a bigger effect than just, okay, it's more stuff on my computer screen.
Right.
Okay, well, that's all the time we have for today. Join us tomorrow and we'll look more into the uses of AR and VR. See you then. Bye for now.
Vocabulary Review.
Helmet. We need to put on our helmets to protect our heads before riding the motorcycle. Flash. Ursula almost lost control of her car and drove into a tree when a cat flashed into sight. Figure. Could you give me the exact figure of how many eggs you want me to buy? Constant. Adults must pay constant attention to young children, or they might hurt themselves by accident. Engaging. Rosalina didn't find the movie very engaging. She was quite bored by the end. Afford. Harry's family could not afford a vacation in another country, so they stay at home.
智慧小补帖。
Digital. Augmented reality. Virtual reality. Headset.